Oil shortages would result in smaller, more fuel-efficient automobiles. But Carroll Shelby knew the demand for high performance would return.
I knew it would someday because America loves cars. Young people today still love their automobiles, and starting about 1978, 79, when they started sending those little four-cylinder European cars over here and calling them sports sedans, finally America woke up again and realized that they better get back into business.
And one of the first companies to do this was the Chrysler Corporation, which was then under the direction of Lee Iacocca. He called upon his old friend Carroll Shelby for help. Through the use of turbocharging, Carroll turned 80-horsepower four-cylinder engines into 500-horsepower behemoths, and also beefed up the suspension and braking systems of many Dodge products.
Shelby is creating a performance revolution at Dodge. And Dodge is creating a revolution in the streets.
While that revolution was going on in the streets, the revolution that had begun in auto racing during the late 60s was continuing. Costs were still going up, and those who were being hurt the most were the little guys who wanted to get involved in motorsports but couldn't afford it.
You can't have these guys that are trying to learn to be race drivers have to buy a new car every year. Go out and pay $50,000, $75,000 for a car, $25,000 for an engine, and have to buy a new one next year to remain competitive. No matter what anybody else thinks or what anyone thinks, the sanctioning bodies all worldwide recognize the fact that racing is completely out of line in the costs, and we've got to do something about it.
In February of 1989, plans were announced for a series where all cars would be built to the same specifications and rules would remain unchanged for the lifetime of the series. The car? The Shelby Can Am Spec Racer. Developed for SCCA competition, it would differ from the old Can Am in that it would be the economical way to go big-time racing.
What we're trying to do is put into effect the axiom as it should be. The guy that's the best should win the race. The guy that prepares his car the best. The guy that's the best driver. Not some SOB whose father gives him $100,000 to go out and beat the little guys that never had a chance to beat him in the first place.
October 1990, only a year and a half after Shelby's creation of the series, his spec racers were ready to make their racing debut at the biggest and most important amateur event of the year, the annual Valvoline Runoffs. It was a proud moment not only for Shelby, but also for the president of the SCCA, the sanctioning body of the event.
When you consider when we unveiled the Sports Renault, there was a lot of doubt and controversy about that concept, and we now have 570 Sports Renaults out running. It's our largest single national class, and the fact that we've only delivered 42 cars at this point, and we have 22 of them here on the grid at Road Atlanta, gives you some idea of the depth of support for this concept.
Five-time SCCA national champion Bob Lobenberg started from the pole, set fastest lap, and won the series' inaugural run, a 12-lap demonstration race. The series was off and running, and the competition would only get better. We'll show you when we return.
So, Martha calls me up to tell me she's got tea. Naturally, I'm all a-twitter with awe and wonderment. After all, I don't have tea, but I want it, don't you know? So I fire up the dart and head over. Well, no sooner do I get there, and she hands me a mug of hot water and this. Naturally, I'm torqued. So I says, Martha, you call this tea? I call it an old bag, which, after this incident, is what I call Martha these days.
Win a trip for two to the Thrifty Car Rental Holiday Bowl, including 4 days at the San Diego Hilton Beach and Tennis Resort. You'll see a great game. Visit the San Diego Zoo and enjoy the use of a Chrysler rental car from Thrifty.
To enter, just drop by Thrifty in North Syracuse and fill out an official entry form, or simply mail your name and address on a 3x5 postcard to this address.
Round-trip air transportation provided by Continental Airlines.
You can own the best of Sports Center on home video, featuring superstars, amazing plays, wacky bloopers. Now on home video.
The NASCAR Winston Cup Tyson Holly Farms 400 from North Wilkesboro Speedway in North Carolina has been postponed because of rain. We'll have live coverage beginning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Monday morning. Since the initial exhibition event at Road Atlanta at the end of 1990, the Dodge Shelby Spec Series has come a long way. In 1991, 3 professional races as well as a series for the club racer were held in front of huge crowds. Cars competing in both utilized the 255 horsepower Dodge 3.3-liter V6 engine. In 1992, using the same type of power plant, the Dodge Shelby Pro Challenge Series scheduled events at 6 different venues in conjunction with Premier IndyCar, IMSA, SCCA, and NASCAR Winston Cup events, and on a mixture of super speedways, short ovals, and road courses. The 92 season began in April at the 1-mile oval of Phoenix International Raceway, running as a support event to the PPG IndyCar World Series. 21 cars were on hand to compete for a $15,000 purse plus end-of-year points fund money. And were they going for it? The white car driven by Michigan's Kyle Konzer was the pole sitter and early leader. But behind him, a 3-car pileup blocked the track and brought out the red flag. Involved were Jerry Foyt, son of the legendary AJ, Jerry Gillis, and Joe DiLoretto. All were okay. Later, with Konzer still leading in the green car of Bob Gardner second, Chris Winkler touched wheels with Kirk Miller, causing both to slide high and Winkler to make contact with the fence. He then ricocheted off the wall, and before it was all over, R. David Jones and Scott Harrington became innocent victims. Again, there were no injuries. On the restart, Gardner passed Konzer for the lead and never looked back in this 25-mile contest. Jack Willis finished second, while Konzer fell to third. Despite the serious-looking nature of the crashes, no one was injured. A testimony to the safety of the Shelby Can Am cars.
We built the car 150 pounds heavier than we could have. Easy 150, maybe 200 pounds. That was for safety. We've had 2 or 3 of them run straight into the wall at 100 miles an hour, and as far as I know, nobody's broke my toenail yet.
We've driven Formula Fords and open-wheel cars, and this is a closed-wheel car, so it doesn't have a tendency to get in the air as the open-wheel cars do. The other part of it is it's substantial in width and crush box dimension on both sides of the driver, along with a frame that will stand substantial impacts before the driver will get hurt. There's plenty of frame, body, and cushioning all the way around the driver, so it's extremely safe and safe to withstand any impact it might get on the racing cars.
If you're unfortunate enough to be in an accident, you'll find that the cost of the replacement parts, just like the car itself, is reasonable.
The price of the parts is right in the ballpark, perhaps a little less than the general race car market for parts. So when you start buying body parts and A-arms and uprights, things that get torn up in accidents and so forth, the price of these is very good. And the other thing is that they're substantially over-constructed for this car. The car was actually built to hold a lot more horsepower. So they're pretty bulletproof until you start hitting with them. They don't break, and you don't have to worry about things falling off the car. And it gives you a lot of confidence in the vehicle itself.
23 Shelbys showed up for round 2 of the Pro Series in the streets of Des Moines, Iowa. The top 6 were separated by less than 4/10 of a second, with pole sitter R.K. Smith just 0.004 of a second better than Konzer. Held in support of the Tide Trans Am Tour, the Dodge Shelby race started in a light drizzle. Unfortunately, the precipitation didn't last very long, but several spun, including Smith and Conzer, who was leading at the time. RK went on to win as the versatile veteran found success in yet another series. Scott Harrington was second, while Conzer finished third.
Today, Dwayne Anderson and Rick gave me a new car. I mean, it's a brand new car. We haven't done any testing, and we came here just kind of hoping that we'd show well. And I'm real pleased for them, and obviously I'm happy for myself, too.
The tough circuit seen here from Don Ketter's point of view proved to be a stern test for the Shelby's brakes and transmission, both of which not surprisingly passed with flying colors.
I looked for a gearbox, and there weren't any on the market that were anywhere near the price that I could come in at my target price, so we built our own gearbox. That gearbox is designed to take anywhere from 200 horsepower to 700. We're using 250 now. So the brakes, we can put a 500 horsepower engine in this car with the same brakes, same gearbox, and we've got a lot of different gear ratios for the gearbox. The gearbox is an integral part of the chassis.
The third stop of 1992 was at the beautiful 4-mile natural road course in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, known as Road America, part of the IMSA Campbell GT weekend. Carrying an in-car camera, 28-year-old Kyle Conzer, the 1990 SCCA Spec Racer champion, told us why he's moving up to the Dodge Shelby Pro Series.
I'm hoping to use this as a tool like I did the Spec Racer to learn tracks, develop my driving skills, get a lot of exposure, which I did with the Spec Racer, and I'm getting with this car, and move on. That way I can run this for 2 years maybe, sell it, get some good return on my investment, and maybe move up the ladder.
Chicago, Illinois' David Tenney, last year's Pro Series champion, led the field down the long front straightaway and into the first turn. But midway through the first lap, second starting Scott Harrington had gotten by for the lead. Later, R. David Jones, running third, went off course at turn number 14, but he was able to continue. Conzer, meanwhile, wasn't having much luck. His car couldn't keep pace with the front runners, but he was able to complete the distance and pick up valuable championship points. At the finish, a pumped-up Scott Harrington charged to the checkered flag for his first victory since 1988, besting Tenney and Michigan's Chris Winkler.
Hey, I think it's a real underrated car, and there's a lot of race car there. You know, they're big cars, they're powerful, and I think a lot of people don't really realize what they are. I think you can take a lot of front runners in other series that maybe don't think these cars are all that hard to drive or all that great of cars, and can hop in these things and not be a front runner in this series, because you got to really run hard in this series to run up front.
The following week, another race and another winner, as David Tenney scored his first victory in the 1992 Dodge Shelby Pro Series at Mosport Park in Canada. 4 races, 4 different winners. And the 2 remaining events in 1992 are on the super speedways at Charlotte and Atlanta. Both will support the NASCAR Winston Cup Series, and the drivers will play in front of big crowds. Fans, car owners, and sponsor representatives will be there to witness Richard Petty's final races at these 2 locations. It'll be a chance for a young driver to showcase his or her talents in the major leagues. Proof that $35,000 can take you where you want to go. As the Cobra was the ultimate sports car of the 60s, the Shelby Spec Racer appears to be the ultimate weapon for racing in the 90s. Speed, safety, challenge. It's all a part of Carroll Shelby's blueprint for success.
For right around 10 grand, you can get a Dodge Shadow ES with a surprise option under the hood. One hot V6. And you know what that means, don't you? Sounds like another wild ride from Dodge. Available with or without a top.
Where to find the Mountain Man. A mountain man can often be found on the trail of adventure, in search of remote watering holes, or weathering harsh climates. Most often, however, you'll find the mountain man wherever you find smooth bush beer or easy drinking bush light. So, head for the mountains and find yourself in the wide, open world of the Mountain Man.
If you wanted to buy a new car for highway use, you'd go to your local dealer and try to find performance, value, safety, and something that would give you good resale. Well, we believe that if you're a race driver, you can find all of those elements in the Shelby Spec Racer. We challenge you to look at any other series and find one that offers you more.
Regardless of how expensive it is, it's still probably the cheapest form of racing at this level. To go professional racing, there's nothing probably as inexpensive as the Shelby Can Am.
For the cost of the car and the kind of prize money we're running for and the venues that we get to run at, I think over time more people will come to this class.
We've run up to 11 races with one engine and still placed it competitively at Phoenix. We've run 9 races with the brake pads, which is an ongoing expense in most racing efforts. Our effort probably will run about $50,000 a year, where a competitive effort in other areas will run 2 or 3 times that.
What we've done, I think, is make a car that's competitive regardless of the dollars that you spend. So if you're a fairly low-profile team such as I am, which is a self-sponsored organization, with all these tractor-trailer rigs and everything, they can spend all the money they want, but they can't put us out of the game. And we're qualified rather well here and have been in all of them. But if you understand how to set up a car and you can drive it reasonably well, you have as good a chance as anybody as being competitive in the series.
Next year, the schedule will expand from 6 to as many as 10 races, and 40 tracks representing every major sanctioning body across the U.S., Mexico, and Canada have expressed an interest in the Dodge Shelby Pro Series. Also in 1993, prize money will go up from $15,000 to $25,000 per race, making this one of the biggest payoffs at this level of competition. Any car owner will tell you that a sponsor is important to a race team. Any sponsor will tell you his most important consideration is a return on his investment. You'll find a good return in the Dodge Shelby Pro Series.
Because of the economy, the budget people are telling the marketing folks, hey, you got to spend your money wisely. We can track the return on investment because of what we do during the weekend. The marketing guy, the sales guy, he's going home, he's being a success. They're seeing a 10 to 1, 20 to 1 return on their investment. It's a wise place to do your advertising marketing because we can track it. We can prove what we did for you.
And how about a car owner's $35,000 investment?
My belief that this car is one of the best values in motor racing today is probably a result of my purchasing a Shelby Cobra years ago for a whopping $6,900, and I think I have armed guards around it today. Anything that Carroll Shelby has been involved in the design phase, the GT40, the Cobras, the new Viper, has a history of becoming exceedingly valuable within 10 to 15 years. So I think that these cars are an excellent investment for drivers and team owners as well, because I think they will hold their value because they're spec racers and they don't become obsolete, and then they'll become exceedingly valuable because of Carroll's legendary name.
Anyone who ever travels on business, now there's AT&T teletravel service. A combination of calling features that gives you the power to turn virtually any phone into your office. It's easy. A toll-free number immediately connects you to AT&T. Then call across the country or across the world without hanging up between calls. Speed dial, set up a conference call, send or retrieve voice messages, and more at rates that could save you money. Call 1-800-544-2222, extension 65, to get AT&T teletravel service. All this for just a $10 annual fee. Then just pay for the features you use. And if you call by November 30th, you'll even get your $10 back. Call now and get the power to turn virtually any phone into your office.
Here's a quick look at what's on Speed Week. Speed Week, Wednesday night at 11 o'clock Eastern on ESPN.
I've got the need for Speed Week.
Carroll Shelby, Blueprint for Success, has been brought to you by Smooth Bush Beer and Easy Drinking Bush Light.
For the past few minutes, you've heard Carroll Shelby and some owners and drivers talking about his Dodge Shelby Spec Racer. But perhaps the greatest testimonial to this car came in mid-September when the $1 million to win Hawaii Super Prix was announced. It will bring together the best drivers from all forms of racing from all over the world for a 100-mile race in Honolulu. Of all the racing machinery that could have been chosen for this magnificent event, the Dodge Shelby Spec Racer was the one selected. When he's not overseeing the development of his own racing series, it's not uncommon to see Shelby at one of the many vintage races held across the United States. Rekindling friendships founded years ago.
How you doing?
Or to see him cruising the streets of Gardena, California, near the Dodge Shelby Motorsports Complex. But it is remarkable because in June of 1990, after a 7-month wait, Carroll Shelby underwent a successful heart transplant at Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles. The Dodge Shelby Spec Series is his latest in a long list of contributions to the sport of auto racing. But knowing Carroll Shelby, it won't be his last. At age 69, he continues to take life at speed and is determined to see his Spec Racer and series become a success.
I think it's a sensational car for what it was built for. I don't think anybody has come close to building that much car for that much money and giving the kids a chance. And now that I'm sliding in the home plate, that's the main thrust. That and my heart fund for indigent children are the two things that I want to see a success before I feel dirt in my face.
In looking back on his days as a driver, designer, team manager, and entrepreneur, Carroll Shelby's record is unblemished. He knows the blueprint for success. Race drivers of all ages can take advantage of this record by becoming part of the newest, most exciting, and most affordable professional racing series in existence today, the Dodge Shelby Pro Series.